up everyone and welcome to Xbox On. One of the most well-received updates to the Xbox One was the Xbox Backward Compatibility program, which allows you to play original Xbox and Xbox 360 titles on your Xbox One. In June, we learned about the final 31 games being added to the Xbox Backward Compatible program before Project Scarlett is released next year. So in this video, we're going to take you through each and every one, in alphabetical order of course, so do make sure to let us know which ones you're most looking forward to playing or trying out down in the comments below. As classic as Xbox classics come, Armed and Dangerous was originally released in 2003 and is still as fun as ever to play. A third-person shooter that can't help but parody massive franchises like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, Armed and Dangerous is simple, satisfying gunplay at its best. Don't believe me? Land Shark Gun. Land Shark Gun. The first Xbox 360 title added was Asura's Wrath, which was released back in February 2012 and was developed by CyberConnect 2. You'll play as the demigod Asura as he seeks revenge on other demigods that betrayed him. The game also features some incredible interactive cinematics and is well worth a play. It's always great to see a rare game make the cut, and there are plenty of those to go around. Kicking it off, we have an absolute classic in Banjo-Kazooie. Everyone's favourite bird and bear combo returned to your consoles for more platforming and puzzle shenanigans. If you've never had a chance to experience this iconic title before, then there has never been a better time. What's better than Banjo-Warnie? Banjo-Tooie! Direct sequel to the original, Banjo-Tooie went big with large worlds to explore and 4-player multiplayer. The worlds look crisper and that signature charm is still there in abundance. What more could you want from a sequel? There is one final Banjo-Kazooie title that makes its way onto backward compatibility and is definitely one with a difference. Nuts and Bolts brings a focus to vehicle construction over traditional platforming and combat, but you must utilize over 1,500 construction parts to pimp out your vehicles and pick up as many of those precious jiggies as you can. With 3 Banjo titles available, you're not going to be short on fun this month. Battlefield 2 Modern Combat is one of the all-time classic FPS titles, which was released for the Xbox 360 in 2005. You've got single player and multiplayer to enjoy, and it was really the beginning of one of the most successful FPS franchises of all time. Check it out if you want to see where it all began. If you're looking for your fix of Final Fantasy-esque turn-based combat, then From Software's Enchanted Arms might just be the choice for you. With a huge world to explore, you'll have plenty of quirky enemies to fight during a plot that is better experienced than explained. Ninja Theory are well known for the unique feel of their gameplay experiences, and Enslaved Odyssey to the West is no different. Set 150 years after a global conflict devastated the land, you must take control of Monkey as he uses his impressive parkour and third-person combat skills to traverse the treacherous landscape in an effort to escort companion Trip to safety. Adding to the growing list of spicy FPS titles, Far Cry Classic is making its long-awaited return to your consoles. The updated edition of the original game, Far Cry Classic, features several improvements to graphics and gameplay that will bring all that nostalgic island blasty goodness right back to you. Still feel you need a little more Far Cry on top of your Far Cry? Then how about Far Cry Instinct's Predator making its way onto your Xbox Ones for the first time? Not only does it include an enhanced version of Far Cry Instincts and the Far Cry Evolution update, which brought new vehicles, weapons, and a single-player story, but it also introduced the iconic Far Cry map editor for the first time. Next up, we have a brilliant indie title. Not that kind, the Harrison Ford kind. Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, to be precise, which sees good old Indy dive into another tomb, this time in search for the Heart of the Dragon. It's a testing puzzle platformer with combat thrown in that has stood the test of time well, looking extra sharp on your Xbox One. Next up, we have the quite perplexingly titled Infinite Undiscovery making its way onto your Xbox One. This action RPG has a bunch of charm and will require all your attention to deal with the sporadic real-time decisions you'll have to make at any given moment that can completely alter the outcome of the story. Be warned, it can happen when you're in your inventory, in the loo, or helping your mum with the laundry, so be ready. Another rare classic now in Kameo Elements of Power. Play as Kameo herself, calling on a whole heap of elemental powers which can alter her appearance and have her combat tough scenarios in a variety of ways. It's a stunning game that is easy on the eye and not so easy on the difficulty, so if you fancy a challenge, Kameo might just be the one for you. I'm not sure if we can be friends if you haven't already played Perfect Dark. You know what, it's okay, I forgive you. Just play it now that it's available on backward compatibility with Xbox. A classic FPS, Perfect Dark was a spiritual successor to GoldenEye 007, which featured a pretty deep story mode and a whole host of fun multiplayer modes, teeing it up as a brilliant party game. Cue our first prequel, with Perfect Dark Zero also making an appearance thanks to the backward compatibility gods. It was a critical success as an Xbox 360 launch title and carried on the series' legacy with updated visuals and a whole host of new missions and multiplayer offerings, including true skill matchmaking brackets, which are one of the first instances of dedicated skill-based matchmaking in competitive multiplayer. That's pretty cool. A literal big addition to backward compatibility for fans of both giant apes and a speedy 1000 gamer score comes with the arrival of Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. Just rolls off the tongue, really, doesn't it? You'll take control of both scriptwriter Jack Driscoll as he fights off the unfriendly inhabitants of Skull Island in an attempt to save love interest Anne Darrow, whilst also running around as the big boy Kong himself, fighting massive beasts and bursting through the streets of New York in a reimagining of iconic scenes from the movie. This information is brought to you by Leah Viathan's Xbox On, the official YouTube of the official Mixer channel. The Sultan of Swing is next to make a return, with Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands slashing its way into the mix. This particular addition to the saga saw the inclusion of new elemental powers for the prince to utilize, alongside the ability to fight up to 50 enemies at once, requiring you to master the art of combos and dodges to survive. It's one of the most memorable installments of the franchise, and one that's worth trying if you've never experienced the series before. Every now and then, a game comes along that brightens up your day by reminding us of the unmatched joy we get from goofing around, and that's exactly what Skate succeeds in. The game revolutionized the skating subgenre with its intuitive control system and character physics, meaning that roaming around the open world felt satisfying as well as enjoyable. There's nothing like pulling off that insane combo you totally 100% meant to make. Gnarly. Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy is a title that has aged brilliantly, unlike the mummy himself. A puzzle game which requires outside-the-box thinking in order to proceed. You'll play as either the Sphinx or the corpse of Tutankhamun, arguably making it the most diverse character roster on the list. If you're after a puzzler that might stand out from the crowd, then Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy might just have you covered. If you're all mummied out, then there's another solid turn-based RPG adventure joining this beautiful list in Star Ocean: The Last Hope. The fourth in the series, The Last Hope took all the elements that worked so well about the earlier games in the series, such as team-focused combat and narrative, and built on it with new attack strategies and team interactions to create one of the most underrated Xbox 360 titles out there. Give it a try, or else. And now for something completely different. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo will be a name that sounds familiar, and there's a good reason for that. It's a puzzle fighter created by Capcom that spoofs Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo to the moon and back. One of the OG puzzle fighters before the intro of classics like Bubble Bobble, Puzzle Fighter 2 was an adorable yet challenging game that required speedy reactions and quick wit to get one over on your opponent, especially in the later rounds of arcade. Still got those Cyberpunk 2077 chills from E3? Then Syndicate might just be the game to keep those hairs standing on end. Set in the year 2069, you control Milo in a classic FPS filled with twists, bloodshed, and more gun variations than you can shake a stick at. The customization is where Syndicate really excels, with over 25 upgrade options and a whopping 87 attachments that alter even the finest details of your arsenal. And damn right, you're going to want to try them all. In the same way that there are no poor rare platformers, there are no poor Tom Clancy shooters, and you can fight me if you disagree. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell spawned a long lineage of stealth games that set the trend for the genre to this day. Learning to sneak through shadows and conserve ammo was a challenge, let alone navigating a map with carefully placed enemies and obstacles. Next up to satisfy your need for sneak is Pandora Tomorrow, the second installment that introduces new mechanics such as distracting whistles and combat rolls, just to name a few. The AI has also undergone a bit of intelligence training as well, so it will automatically adapt to the player's skill level, meaning that regardless of whether you found the first game too difficult or easy, you'll be perfectly matched this time around. If you manage to sneak your way through Pandora's Tomorrow, you'll be greeted by Chaos Theory, which is the next sequel to appear on Compat. As well as introducing a combat knife to protagonist Fisher's arsenal for some stabby, the levels opened up to expand the ways in which you can complete your objectives, rather than following a singular linear path. The Tom Clancy train continues, with Double Agent also making an appearance. This time round, a hub is included for the very first time, bringing more RPG elements along with it, and an area for Fisher to explore when he isn't sneaking around on missions. There's also the trust system, which means you'll need to face moral dilemmas through the main story, which will impact the ending you'll get with the story. The only moral dilemma you'll have outside of the game at this point is which Splinter Cell to pick up next. Too Human is quite a confusing title for a game about Norse gods and stabbing baddies in the face. Too Human references the player character Baldur's reduced cybernetic powers in relation to his godlier brethren, therefore making him too human. But not too human to kick some serious butt with some tight combat and engaging set pieces. It's another underrated title that needs to be tried to be appreciated. Unreal Championship 2, the Leandry conflict, is next up on our list, continuing the Unreal franchise and introducing an evolutionary new gameplay style to the traditional FPS genre: acrobatic, melee, combat. Yep, you heard that right. This super sequel features a new single-player and multiplayer gameplay, awesome player acrobatics, third-person camera mode, and intense melee abilities. And this time around, fans can play as any one of 14 characters from the Unreal universe, each with spectacular new adrenaline powers that enable new offensive and defensive combos. It's a game to celebrate with an acrobatic reverse double backflip, that's for sure, and I'm not gonna try it. After the Unreal Championship, we have Unreal Tournament 3 bursting back onto the scene for the first time in a decade. Known for its classic online modes, including Duel, Deathmatch, and Capture the Flag, just to name a few, it set the standard for gaming to the present day, with titles like Overwatch and COD all taking note from Unreal Tournament's super satisfying combat and well-balanced online conflict. It's one of the easiest pick-up and play titles out there and is a perfect one for de-stressing. The last two games in our backward compatibility list are care of that lovely developer Rare. Viva Pinata is an explosion of colour and goodness as the game revolves around the player tending to a neglected garden on Pinata Island, in which different variations of pinatas must be bred whilst fending off disruptive interlopers. It's a bit more relaxed and laid back than a lot of the games on this list as you try to create the perfect pinata paradise. That's a tongue twister right there. Our final entry was released 2 years after the original, way back in 2008. I mean, what, that wasn't just 3 years ago? Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise follows a similar path to the first game, but this time around, the pesky Professor Pester has managed to break into Pinata Central to steal data about the location and weaknesses of every pinata in the world, so that he can capture them and become the Pinata King. Dun dun dun! It's your job to find them all, make the perfect home, and protect those poor stuffed animals. So there we have it. Those are all 31 titles that are being added to the Xbox backward compatibility program. Please do share which ones you're most looking forward to playing down in the comments below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. We'll see you next time. Bye!